All right, Vignette E2. So in this vignette, we're going to look at the history of the broomstick market, where it started, how it sort of evolved, and its long-run equilibrium. So in the early days, we're told here that Shooting Star was sort of the first to make a magical broomstick using this locomotion. It's a new technology, so at the very beginning, their secrets were private, but then over time, the technology sort of began to disseminate, and many other broomstick makers entered the market. And in the end, we're told that the broomsticks have identical handling and acceleration characteristics. And then lastly, we're told that few, if any, new broomstick makers had entered the market. So this gives us a bunch of clues when we're asked to use a few graphs to illustrate the answer, telling the story of the evolution of the broomstick market from its inception to the present. And then we're asked to finish in the long run equilibrium. So to begin, it looks like Shooting Star is a monopoly. They're the first in the broomstick market, and really they have no competitors, at least direct competitors, from what we're told. So the way we would set this up is, we just set up a monopoly graph. We have our increasing marginal cost curve. We know this is not a natural monopoly because we do know eventually that many other broomstick makers began opening up. So there was some incentive for others to enter. So the cost structure looks a little different than a natural monopoly. That's one of the sort of nuanced clues about the shape of the marginal cost curve here. We have a demand curve, and we have a marginal revenue curve. So, as always, the solution to the firm's problem, we simply intersect the marginal revenue curve with the marginal cost curve to give us our Q star. At this Q star, we then run Q star up until it hits the demand curve, which tells us the maximum price this monopolist can sell everything for. It's the highest price they can sell and not have anything left over. So that gives us P star. We also care about the socially efficient quantity, what the social planner would choose. So we intersect the marginal benefit and the marginal cost curves, which gives us what I'm calling Q social, that should be a P, social planner. So this gives us our socially efficient quantity, which allows us to establish the interval of market failure. So the monopolist is choosing a quantity that's too low. The market would be able to support a higher quantity if we could choose this ideally. So we establish this distance of market failure, and then we look at the marginal benefit curve and the marginal cost curve. The area between them, above this interval here, is our deadweight loss. This is the additional benefit to the market that we are missing out on because this market structure is a monopoly. So we have our deadweight loss, we have our social quantity, we have our price for the monopolist, and we have our quantity for the monopolist. If we wanted to, we could include an average total cost curve, but I've left this out for some technical reasons that are not particularly important here. If you wanted to include it and then describe profit, that would be great too. Okay, so then we write a little bit of a description here, just talking about the initial starting point of Shooting Star. So they're the only seller, so they get to set both price and quantity, and then they maximize their profits, leading to some deadweight loss. So that's the first part of this question. The second part is about sort of entry over time. So as the technology becomes disseminated, we see many broomstick makers begin to compete with this monopoly, with Shooting Star. So we're asked to use a few graphs to illustrate the answer about the evolution of this broomstick market from its monopoly starting point to something that resembles a competitive market. And remember, this is a competitive market because we have many broomstick makers producing broomsticks with identical handling and acceleration characteristics. So just from the information we're given, we're told that these are homogeneous. The broomsticks are homogeneous. So we know this is a perfectly competitive market, at least from the information we're given. Okay, so to do this, we have to establish a market price. So perfectly competitive firms are price takers. They look at the market, decide what the market is doing, and pick their quantity accordingly. So we have a supply curve, we have a demand curve, we have our equilibrium price and quantity. This price then becomes the marginal revenue curve and the demand curve for the perfectly competitive firm. We have a marginal cost curve for the firm, and we're told that in our long-run equilibrium, few, if any, new broomstick makers had opened. What this tells us is that there's no profit to be had. There's no reason for new firms to enter. We're also told that no new firms are exiting. I guess it's sort of implied by this question. It's not given to us explicitly. What this means also is that there's no loss, that firms are not exiting this market. So the implication here is that profits are zero, which means ATC is tangent to the marginal revenue and price line at the point where it intersects marginal cost. So we draw a vertical line up from the solution to the monopolists, the perfectly competitive firms problem. Q star, we run this up until it hits the ATC. And for profits to be zero, we need this point to happen at the minimum of ATC, where ATC intersects marginal cost. We need this point to also intersect marginal revenue and marginal cost. We need all three of these lines to have a point right here, a point of intersection, and tangency for ATC. So this means the solution to the firm's problem also gives us zero profits. So we can write a little bit of a description about this. We can say, this is sort of my conclusion, that as firms start entering, the firm market power is reduced through competition. So firms are entering, we haven't talked about the transition between monopoly and perfect competition, but we know there's reduced market power because there are competitors. So then in the long run, profits are zero because no firms are entering, and the market chooses the societally efficient quantity at the minimum of ATC. So it's both maximizing total surplus and producing at the lowest average total cost. So we have productive efficiency. Okay, so I think we'll leave it here, and I will see you in the next one.